Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What with Dan and Julie. Today we've got Andrew on, who is a stand-up comic and presenter. Hi, Andrew.
How you doing, guys? You right?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm all good, man. I'm glad to be coming back to normality soon and
Oh, yeah,
slowly and surely. But yeah, I'm all good,
absolutely.
man. How
Can't
about
wait
you
for the
guys?
17th so we can
I
get
know.
back inside somewhere. Because have you been going to the pubs and stuff? Because we've been going to the pubs and it's absolutely freezing outside
Yeah,
still.
yeah, yeah. Blitz. I went out one time like last weekend, and I was like, I'm not doing it again. I'm just gonna sit my house at home and wait until the 17th.
So let's jump straight in then. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what you actually do, Andrew?
Yeah. So I'm as you mentioned, I'm a stand-up comedian. Been on the circuit for about 2 years now, and also presenter, present at BT Sport. Um, so yeah, I have my own show on there called What I Wore. I do like sit down interviews and stuff like that, and just other pieces.
Very cool. That BT Sport show you're on now with Hugo Monnier as well.
Yeah, I'm on. Yeah, it's a numbers game. Yeah.
Yeah, so that looks cool. How did that all come about?
Um, it's weird. It's a weird one actually. I was just at home and I just got a text or like an email actually asking if I can do a screen test.
Mm,
So I think the plan was for like BT to do something for it's almost like a kids show where like you can get like parents in before they watch the game to kind of get their kids watching BT Sport as well.
okay.
So yeah, it was just like it was mad, like a quick turnover. I did a screen test, and then literally the next week they were like, yeah, we want to start shooting this thing. We have 6 episodes, and literally it's been like the most fun thing I've done. Like even more than like doing the interviews with like superstar footballers. It's like I'm just in that show just doing mad stuff. Like I had to do like a bungee jump. I had to do I had to do like some stupid Guinness World Record stuff. Like it's been crazy, yeah. So that's been like the most fun I've ever had on like an actual show. It's crazy.
Oh, cool. So your sort of stand up. How did you get involved in the world of comedy then? What made you go into that?
Let me not lie, yeah. Obviously, I always wanted to do comedy in it, but I was mad shook. Like I was just being like so scared to jump on because like in my head, yeah, I was like in my head was like being funny is probably the only thing I'm like probably good at, and I didn't want to like go on stage and realize I wasn't funny, so I was scared to like basically put myself out there.
Mm,
So then like just a few people were saying like, oh yeah, man, you should do it, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it, man. And then like I just signed up one time. Actually, no, I didn't even sign up. I just went to a gig one time and I just jumped on there, and it was literally like I was like, yeah, this is what I should be doing, man. And
mm.
yeah, just literally from there, just like non-stop, just been gigging, really, yeah.
I don't know much about the comedic world. How does it even work? I mean, you mentioned the circuit, but how do you get started into it? How do you grow into it? And how does it sort of work as a whole?
It's a weird one. Like, so it's like there's a the open mic circuit, right? So that is basically open to anybody and anybody. So anybody, there's a few like open mic nights they call it, yeah, where you can just join a forum on Facebook or whatever, and you sign up and you can just walk on stage, and they're normally like 5 minute spots. So you
Mm.
might have 10 people, 10 comedians, new acts, and they just go up and try and do 5 minutes basically.
Mm.
So that's like the first. That's how you can get into it. And there's like a load of them. There's about obviously London is a good comedy city because there's just so many different nights and stuff. And they're like, don't get me wrong, they're not like glamorous or anything. They're probably in like the back of a pub or in the basement somewhere. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's just
Yeah.
somewhere wherever they would put on comedy. And you can do that for a while. And then like there's another stage where it's like and then it's like basically like the open mic scene is like a a world pool of so many different types of comedians. So you'll get like a straight stand-up like me myself, or you might get an alternative comedian, or you might get an improv comedian. And then depending on how you see your comedy going, is kind of how the direction you take into. So there's like the club circuit where you do like the traditional stand-up comedy clubs like the Comedy Store, Backyard, where you just a straight shooter, you go up and you tell jokes or etc. And then you got people who like do alternative comedy that might go into like do stuff around in like colleges and stuff like that. So it's like it kind of depends on like what style of comedy you do, really, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we had a comedy club owner on a while back, and he was talking about how much prep it takes to really fill those 5-10 minute slots, like how much material you need to build up. How do you go about doing your act and building your material?
It's a good question. Like I kind of do it like I kind of approach writing comedy like I'm a lawyer going to court. How I do it is like, okay, so if I'm a lawyer going to court, I have a case, I have a stance on the case. So whether I feel that this person's, whether I'm defending this person or I'm trying to prosecute them, I have a jury that I need to convince of my stance on the case. And then the most important thing I have to bring to court is the evidence. So that's how I kind of approach comedy. So it's like my case is my topic, my jury is my audience, my stance on the case is my premise, like what do I want to talk about, what's my opinion on a particular thing, and then my evidence are my jokes. So it's almost like I look at it like, okay, it's like obviously when I watch these drama like law shows, they're always like, oh, we're not gonna go to court because this case is not winnable. So I always look at it as like, when I look at my topics, it's like, is this a winnable topic? And
That's such an interesting way to look at it.
yeah, so when I talk about winnable topic, yeah, it's more like, is this interesting? Like, are people gonna find this interesting? Like, what am I saying about this thing? Why is it worth me coming on stage with it? So that's like the first hurdle. Is this worth me even talking about, right? And then I have try and get a particular standpoint on it. So let's say I'm talking about, I don't know, let's say my topic might be relationships. Like, what about relationships am I actually talking about? What do I find interesting about those things? And what are my opinions on those things? So I write that out, and then I have like my jokes as my evidence. So like it's trying to convince the audience of my point of view, and that's how I look at it, like that. So that's like my writing process. And it's also with that, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
It's
no
also
worries.
an editing process. So like you write a lot, you go on stage, but then like the main important ingredient of it is actually the editing process. So you have like a bunch of ideas. So that you might have a topic and you have a load of like different premises in the topic that you want to explore, and then you're going through each one thinking, oh, this one's stronger, this one isn't that strong. And the key is like editing those down. So I might write a piece of material that's maybe 20 minutes, but really and truly, I might need to cut that down to 7 minutes. So that's why working in production, working in television has really helped my comedy, because I take the same sort of approach in terms of filming and editing. So if I'm filming a piece, I might, obviously if I'm filming something or an interview, I might film for an hour and cut it down to 20 minutes. So I know that 20 minutes is going to be incredible. So that's how I approach writing. So if I write for 20 minutes worth of material, I know I probably really got maybe like 7 minutes, but it's that 7 minutes going to be concise and sharp. So I'd rather have like a really strong 7 than a baggy 20, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that leads really nicely into actually the next question, which was, so you've done, your comedic stand-up kind of thing, and you're doing stuff in the media as well, obviously, with your show on BT Sport, and also you mentioned your show where you interview people. So how did that kind of part of your career come about, where you were introduced into the world of the media, really?
Yeah, is this is like, when I mean like, this is just like, there's so many factors that this fell into place. I can't lie. Like literally woke up one day and I was just like a presenter of a new show. I was like, what am I doing? That sort of thing. So basically, like, my story is, I started at BT as an apprentice, right? So I used to kick ball. I was like a schoolboy at ALC Wimbledon. Then I went to Welling, and then I went to where did I go to? I went to Harrogate Town up in Leeds. And basically, so I played there for a year. Didn't really work out, so I needed to move back to London, and I had to move back into my mum's house. My mum was like, look, if you come back here, you have to go university, innit? And my whole thing, that my biggest, like, I'm not sure you guys know, but in an African household, yeah, going to uni is like going to heaven. It's like it's the same equivalent. Like, so my mum had been like, from the day I can remember, they're pushing university in it, and I've always rebelled against it. Like, all of my brothers went uni, and I'm like, I don't want to go uni. I don't see the point in it. Anyone I know that went to uni doesn't have a job that they went to uni for, and they're just in my. I don't understand why you'd want to go. So I was just constant pushback on my mum. My mum said, look, if you come here, you gotta go to uni, innit? So I was like, okay, what kind of balance can I find? So I was like, okay, what I'm gonna do, I want to look for apprenticeships. So I started looking for like a load of apprenticeships in media, like sports media, because that's the one thing like sports like really like interested me, like more than like the scientific stuff. And like most people like who play football and go into like sports stuff, they go into like sports therapy and stuff like that. The thing that interested me the most was like sports media. Like I always used to watch pundits and stuff like that. So that's the kind of vibe that I wanted to get into. So I applied for, like, no word of a lie, guys. Yeah, I applied for like 100 apprenticeships. Yeah, and I didn't get any of them. Like, to the point where I was like, I gave up. I was like, okay, I signed up for a uni. I went on UCAS and everything. And then I was just like, let me just check. I was like, let me just check the Gov UK website again, innit? I clicked media and sport. Boom, BT Sport came up. I was like, oh crap. And I was like one of the first people to get like BT, because I was like BT broadband. So I had BT Sport in it. So I was like, oh, is this a sign or whatever?
Oh, okay.
So I quickly like I applied for it, and the application was kind of long. Like you had to write an essay of why BT Sports should hire you, etc., etc. So I think it was like 1,000 applicants, yeah, and then they narrowed the 1,000 down to 100.
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't know, in it. They were like, you're gonna have a group interview, yeah. So I've been in like a few of those group interviews, like River Island or whatnot, yeah. And there's like 6 people. I walk in this place, yeah. There's like 100 people. I was like, what am I? I started rubbing my eyes, like, am I seeing things correctly, sort of thing, yeah. So then it was like a whole recruitment process for a month, and a month. So you had to do like different tasks, yeah. So you had to like conduct an interview and like all of those kind of stuff. And so basically each week they just narrowed the number down from 100 to like whatever. And like one of the last challenges, like you had to pitch why BT should hire you in front of a camera. Ooh. So I don't at the time I didn't know, but there's a different pressure like when the camera's on you, and I don't know why. Like, so like feel. Yeah. It's a different feel, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So you have to get through that, right? So then they've narrowed it down to 20, and there was different departments at BT looking for different apprentices, yeah. And they basically put you forward, based on like the recruitment process. They put you forward into the role that they thought that you would be best suited, right? So then I basically, there was a particular role I wanted to do, like schedule managing or something like that, and I was like paramount that I wanted to do that. But luckily they were like, oh, we feel like you're more creative, like, so you should do logging in it now. So I had to interview with like the head of archive, who was like running the logging team. I'll explain what logging is in a minute. So then did the interview. Now I ended up getting a job. So it was like 6. So out of the 1,000 applicants, there was 6 roles. I ended up getting one of the logging roles. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, logging is basically, it's very like simple. It's like basically I would just like watch a load of different sports, yeah, mainly football, and I would have to like log all the key moments in the game. So if I'm watching football, I would have to log all the free kicks and the goals and the red cards, etc. So if they're doing an edit, they can just click on my log, and if they want to find clips of Neymar, they can just look at the log sheet and they'll be able to find it and clip it out, basically.
Oh, cool.
So I always wondered who does that.
Yeah. It's literally the most. I literally watch I was watching like 6-7 games a day, like, and you're not just doing like football, you're doing rugby. There's times you're doing like flipping rowing and shit like that. So I was just literally watching like sport all day. So I basically said to myself, like, I need to kind of get out of digital. I need to kind of get out of logging. Yeah. So what it was, yeah, logging was good because I was on shift work. So I had a 5-day week and a 3-day week. So what I was doing, yeah, in my days off, I would just come into the building and like shadow different departments. Because how BT works is like an open plan building. It's like 2 floors, open plan. So like you can just walk anywhere and you can just see anyone and go over to anyone. So I was just like, all right, cool. I'm going to see what I want to do in it. I kind of wanted to be a producer. So I started shadowing production. I started shadowing different like teams like promos and digital and that. So when I was doing all the shadowing on my days off, I realized that I wanted to get into the digital team because the digital was like more in tune with what I was. I was young. I was like into social media, into YouTube, and that's the kind of content space that they were creating. It was like less traditional TV, if that makes sense, and they were a growing team. So I was like, okay, hopefully I need to get into digital, but there was no digital roles that came up. So then it was coming up to the end of my apprenticeship, and then promos promos had a job role offer. So I applied for it and then did an interview. And then as I did the interview, yeah, I did my first interview, digital also had a job offer role. So I was like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do? Sort of thing. So I conjured up a plan where I apply for the digital role, thinking yeah, that the promos team, by the time they get back to me, I already had my interview with digital, and then I can plan it out. But then the next day, promos offered me the job. So I was like, what do I do? What do I do? So I didn't really want to do promos like that, but I just didn't want to log. So I turned down the promos job.
Wow.
I turned it down, and I hadn't even heard back from digital at this point. So I turned it down. Luckily, like digital got back to me, offered me an interviewed with them, and they gave me the job. So then
you turned it down without knowing if digital would give you the job.
Yeah. So basically, if digital don't give me the job, I'll still be logging till today. That's what I'm saying. I'll still be logging 2021. I'll be a logger. So I just felt, you know what? There's no point me settling and going for something that I don't really want to do. I'd rather just try and push it to the best thing that I can do and kind of like just try and back myself. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
In that sense. So ended up like being like a junior producer at digital. So I was just doing like a load of different stuff. The head of the team even when I was shadowing, he always like took a liking to me and kind of like liked my ideas. I was like a new perspective for him, and obviously I was young, I was black, so it's like it was a different thing in his team. So like he kind of got inspiration from what I was bringing, and he really is like a huge fan of stand-up comedy. So when he found out I was doing comedy, he was like really an advocate for me. So what I was just like almost like a sponge. I was just like learning from different aspects of digital, the kind of stuff I wanted to do. So one thing I started doing was I started doing like Instagram stories at live events. So that there might be a boxing event or a football game, and I'll just be like doing a behind the scenes Instagram stories. And I'm not lying to you guys, I was just blagging it in it. Like I would just like, I would just be pushing my luck in it. I would just like hide in the changing room. You know what I'm trying to say? See the boxer and be like, yo, bro, I'm just at BT. Can I get a little thing? They'll be like, yeah, cool. And they'll just like, so I ended up getting some crazy exclusive stories in it.
That must have been some cool experience. Like, seeing some great sportsmen doing that.
Yeah, for sure. It was mad. So then like they were like, they liked the story. So then like had another opportunity where they're like, why don't we want you to like host the story? So like put your face on it, basically.
Wow.
I was like, all right, cool. So I started doing that, started like presenting the stories sort of thing. Then like the biggest change happened. So like I was doing a load of boxing for digital, and then BT acquired so many like different boxing rights, and then they ended up signing Tyson Fury. So it became like a much bigger, it became not as big as football, but it became like a massive thing that we were doing rather than just a side thing that we were doing. So they created a boxing team. Now the head of my team, so that my line manager at the time was running that team, and he basically said, look, I don't want you just to do boxing. I'd rather you like be across the other stuff that you're doing in it rather than just limiting you to boxing. And I was like mad pissed off because I was like doing all the boxing stuff. Like I had built relationships with some of the fighters and stuff like that. So I was a bit pissed off. But then literally the next week we had this is mad. It's mad because like this week, there was a boxing event that I couldn't go to. And then we had this workshop at Google. So I was pissed that I had to go to this workshop Like I was mad pissed. I was like, I wish I was in like flipping wherever the boxing event was doing the boxing. I'm just in this workshop talking about ideas. But literally, this is the workshop that changed my life, innit? So we're at Google because Google got this deal with BT where they show the Champions League on YouTube for free. So we go into Google from time to time to do like workshops. Now this workshop was like for original YouTube ideas. So it's like people from Google, people from BT, and they're all just coming up with different ideas, isn't it? So it's like a 2-day workshop. So I imagine the first day I'm in the workshop, all pissed off now. Second day, they're like, oh, we're gonna split you guys into groups, and you're all gonna come up with original YouTube ideas, right? Now, before like my show, I was like into football shirts, innit? So I always used to wear football shirts, etc., etc. So the head of my team was in my group, and he was like, let's figure out something around football shirts. So we started talking, cultivating this idea, which became what I wore, and it wasn't called what I wore at the time. I think we called it like something stupid, like get your kit on or something like that. And it was all about shirts and that culture around shirts, etc., etc. So then what you had to do, is that you had to put your idea on the board, right? And then everyone was given fake Monopoly money, and then a member from each team had to pitch their idea to the wider group. So the head of my team was like, all right, Andrew, you pitched the idea, innit? I was like, you sure? He's like, yeah, you're wearing a shirt, it makes sense. Pitch the idea. So I pitched the idea, etc., etc. And then with your Monopoly money, you had to put your money in the idea that you thought was the best. You feel me? So obviously, I put all my bread in my idea, innit? I just slapped all my bread in the idea, and then it ended up getting picked. Like that, it was that and another show. It ended up getting picked as like the 2 leading ones to do. And
that must feel so cool. Being mad. Like going to a workshop, creating up this like random idea, and then eventually that's an idea that BT Sport roll with.
Yeah, it was mad. So then, so now I'm thinking at this point, I'm just gonna be a producer on the show. Like I'm thinking, okay, this is finally a project I get to run. That's what I'm thinking, isn't it? So then they're like, literally 2 weeks after, they're like, look, we've got in contact with Classic Football Shirts, like we're kind of ready to go. We've got Deli Ali, who wants to shoot the first one. They were like, Andrew, do you wanna shoot the first one? I was like, what do you mean shoot the first one? They were like, yeah, do you want to present it? I was like, yeah, but I'm thinking at this point, it's like, because what normally happens is like they do in-house pilots, innit? So it's like you'll shoot a pilot, but it'll only be shown in-house. So then the powers that be will decide, all right, that's good, we'll give you some money to do it, basically. So that's what I thought I was presenting. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I did a Delhi one. Cool, it went well, it's fine. Then literally like 2 days after, they're like, Rio Ferdinand got a hold of it. He wants to do it, innit?
Oh,
so now they're like, do you want to do this one as well? I'm like, oh my God, Rio Ferdinand. Cool. So this one I wasn't really scared about the Delhi one, but I don't know why, but I was so scared with the real one because we did it was a Champions League night. So there was a load of people in the building and we did it in the studio before they set up for the Champions League. So there's so many people watching. You feel me? So, and obviously Rio is mad big. He's massive, innit? So when he's walking towards me, I was thinking, fuck this. This is not for me. And they kept on saying like, oh, this is the one we're going to launch. This is the one we're going to launch, innit? So I knew there was a lot riding on it. If it was shit, it would have been shit. And then like, whatever, you know what I mean? It would have been done. But then like Rio went to a school right next to mine. So when he found that out, he was like, he's been like mad safe to me like beforehand. And he just kind of, I'm not going to lie, like he kind of just carried me. He kind of just made it so comfortable where I was just like, I didn't really have to do much, if that makes sense. Like he was just so enthusiastic with the shirts and everything. And then they edited it, put it out, and it literally just went off.
That's awesome.
How cool is that?
Went off, and I was just like blown away. And they were just like, look, you're the face of it now. We can't really give it to anyone else. And then and then through that opportunity, literally through me like doing well in other interviews and stuff, and then like they just giving me different opportunities, got to do like more traditional sit down stuff, present other pieces there, and then like and then like in the summer now I'll be actually leaving BT to be like a freelance presenter. So that's
wow.
That's great. Yeah,
I think you are such a brilliant example of somebody who we talk about all the time about university, and like you know, we've got friends who went to uni and don't really study what they learned at uni, or don't have jobs in what they learned at uni. And the fact that you did an apprenticeship, you came in on your days off to shadow people,
For
and you've
sure.
built this career out of an apprenticeship. Like, it can be done, and you're a great example of how you can do it.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's just like there's just different things. Like, let's keep it real, guys. People are lazy, innit? They don't want to come on a day off.
Yeah.
And like, I can't lie, like the login was draining because the login were fucking 10-hour shifts.
Oof.
It's like 12 till 10 or like 9 till 7. And like on your days off, the last thing you want to do is walk back into the building, innit? But I just knew like it's either you have like, I always look at it like this: anything that's hard, I just go for it because I know it's gonna make my life better rather than doing what's easier. So if I could come in on my days and just kind of get through the login, but I'd be logging forever. So it's like, if I want to get out of this, I might as well just make it hard for these next 2 years and kind of progress and kick on. So that's how I just kind of looked at it. It's like, and don't get me wrong, logging is a great opportunity. I'm not knocking logging in any way, but it was just more like I had ambition for my career and what I wanted to do. And I just knew like no one's going to hand it to me. So I have to put myself out there. I have to be friendly. I have to be available. And that's just kind of the mentality I had.
No, that actually leads on quite well. We usually ask, what sort of personality traits do you see in yourself that you think really have helped you get to where you are today?
Probably like, I'll definitely say like a willingness to learn. But at the same, I think like you need a balance in it. So like one of my favorite comedians is Richard Pryor, and I've read an article about him the other day, and like the line I took from it is like he was like swaggering and vulnerable, boastful and confessional, superheroic and all too ordinary. And it's like he was able to have a balance of confidence, but also be vulnerable where you could connect with him. And I like that notion of like, you have to be confident. You have to believe that you can make it out of where your circumstances, or you can push on, but you have to be humble enough to be able to learn from the people who are in positions as well. So it's catching that fine balance. A lot of people like are just too on the vulnerable side, and they just feel like they can't progress and the whole system is against them. And then there's a lot of people who are just like boastful and brag and think they have all the answers already. So you have to have that balance between confidence and also humility in order to learn and get to where you're going.
So with all your work that you've done in the world of comedy and now in the world of media, what have been some of the biggest positives for you?
What do you mean by positives? It's like,
so yeah, I guess opportunities like you got to do the interviews with Rio Ferdinand, and just how do you why do you do it? What are the things that you think are really positive about these industries?
For sure. Well, comedy is definitely comedy for me is just like a way of life. It's more like an ovation. I feel it's more like the joy of making people laugh, like making people happy and making people remember something that you've said, and just being able like to, no matter where, the thing about the beautiful thing about comedy is that no matter where you're doing it right, it always feels good. So if I'm in a pub somewhere and there's 4 people and you have those 4 people laughing, it feels as good as having 100 people laughing at Up the Creek or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And that's the beauty of doing comedy. So like that notion, that feeling of like just having fun on stage is just like the best feeling. Like I always say, like laughter is just like the biggest medicine. Do you know what I mean? Once people are laughing, like you can just feel a positivity and energy in a room that kind of like, no matter what you're going through, you kind of like can get through that. So it's almost like that's why I love doing comedy. And it's more, it's not necessarily, obviously I've had success in comedy, and like the successes are never like as good as like the successes of like growing up in the ladder of comedy. It's not about, it doesn't feel as good as like just doing well on stage, no matter where you are, sort of thing. Presenting is definitely like one of the big ones for me was doing Gareth Bale, What I Wore. Like it was the first, I flew to Spain.
Oh wow.
That was the first time I went to Spain. Like that was just a crazy experience that I get to, like that week was mad because I was at the couple years back. It was when do you guys remember when Manchester United knocked out PSG? They did a comeback in Paris and Rashford scored a penalty. I was at that game, and I remember like filming and getting mad close to the players. And then literally that night I flew to Spain to do like What I Wore with Gareth Bale, and I remember just thinking, oh my god, this life is crazy, isn't it? So that was definitely a positive. A big one for me personally was I'd interviewed my cousin Abere Eze. He plays for Crystal Palace.
Oh, cool.
So I did an interview on BT Sport with him on the estate that we grew up.
Oh, wow.
So it was just like literally we just did like a memory lane sort of thing, walking around all the estates and just like his journey, because his journey was like so many setbacks as well. Like he got released from so many clubs, so now him being like a proper star in the Premier League was just like, it's just like a massive inspirational story. So like doing that on the estate that we grew up in was just like a big coming together for the family sort of thing.
How cool.
What would also be some negatives or less favorable aspects of this industry? It's obviously an industry most people don't get to see a side of, but what would be some things that you've found about it?
What, like as in both fields, yeah?
Yeah, both fields.
Well, comedy, I feel like there's a lot of, because I would say there's a lot of distractions from actual comedy, right? Because like comedy is a lot of, let me just keep it real. There's a lot of weird people in comedy. Weirdos. Let's keep it real. Like they're a bit like, they're not a lot is not stand-up individuals. So you're dealing with like people who have like massive egos but also fragile egos, and like scared of like competition, scared of like progression sort of thing. So a lot of the times you can kind of get caught up into like the drama of the circuit, if that makes sense, and people not booking certain people because they don't want to, or because they have a certain type of way or whatever. Or someone, you might have a relationship with someone and it goes sour, and then they tell certain people not to book you and stuff like that. So you can deal with that kind of stuff. There's a lot of like, because like I feel like there's a lot of like woe is me in comedy, if that makes sense. Like, that people like thrive off of, and a lot of those people come from a place where they don't focus on what. It's like they're almost in comedy they're in comedy not for comedy, but they're in comedy for like the drama of comedy. And sometimes you're mixed within, sometimes you can get mixed within that. So that's like a tricky thing with comedy, and having to deal with that. And also like not really knowing, obviously the pandemic was a big one. And also like just not really knowing the routes to take. Like comedy is such a vast, there's no like set way to do it. So you can kind of feel lost sometimes in your pursuit of comedy, which I think in anything you do, you shouldn't really do it for a pursuit. You should just do it for the craft and for the love of it sort of thing. Because then I try and I suppose like what I'm trying to say is like, I feel like peace in your life comes from when you realize that everything comes from you, and you're not trying to seek outside validation. And you're not trying to seek like progression as a way to fulfill you. And with comedy, there's a load of like the whole notion is that you go on stage almost to get validation. Like you're judged on people's reaction of you. So people tend to treat that people who are in comedy tend to treat that around their whole life. And if they're not getting booked, or if someone doesn't speak to them at a gig, they kind of take it personal and stuff. And sometimes it's hard to circumvent through that, if that makes sense.
No, interesting point.
In terms of television, I think the difficult thing for me is because we was more on the digital side, it was kind of like getting out of, I feel like a constant battle for me is trying to, especially like in the big corporation world, TV world, it's like trying to shift the model from traditional television to online, and realizing that, and trying to convince people who have been in the game for like 30 years that no one really watches TV like that anymore. You know what I mean? So the focus should be online and digital. So I think like the notion of like big hotshot producers is like, oh, this is just a social media thing. It's just a tweet thing. But it's like social media now and online platforms is the biggest like tool. It's the most traction. You're gonna get the most hits out of. Like, I don't think it's just so many things. Even so many things that are on TV, I watch them on YouTube. Like let's say like Graham Norton. I can't remember the last time I watched Graham Norton on television. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's always on Facebook clips.
Yeah, it's always on
like
Facebook or like a YouTube clip. So it's like the notion of that digital is like the new world. So I think when I came into the game, we was in a transition between it being just a tweet thing to it being the thing, if that makes sense. And a lot of people held on to like the traditional TV sense, which was just like a dinosaur sort of thing. So it's like if we got access to David Beckham, then the stuff that we do online should be the priority, because that's the stuff that's going to hit the most. Whereas like you will get someone that just says, no, we're the Champions League team, so we want to do a piece before the pundits talk about the game. And it's like, well, no one watches that. I can't remember the last time I turn on the TV at 7 p.m. to watch the pundits talk about the game. If it's the game's at 8 p.m., that's when I'm turning it on. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, you're on your phone before the game. You might, and if you see a clip about it, then you'll watch that, right?
Yeah, if you see a clip about the pundit stuff, I'll watch it on YouTube. I'd watch it on Facebook. So it's like that was probably been like the difficulty of the working in TV, I'd say.
So at this point, we always like to talk about average income figures. So what we do is go away, look for data and see if you would agree. So what we did was we went for the apprenticeship within the TV world, and we found the average was around 16,000 for a starting apprentice. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I think I was getting something stupid like £200 a week or something dumb like that. I remember eating Indomie and stuff, thinking like, me, fam. Yeah, like even when I was doing like interviews, and I was still on a junior wage. Like, so I only really started getting decent money like maybe in the last year or so.
Wow.
So yeah, that's probably like average. Yeah.
Okay. And what would be something that's not in the job description, something you never expected to be dealing with in this career path?
That's a good question. What do you mean by nothing like something like this occurred?
Yeah, something random that you never thought you'd have to deal with when you were doing these jobs.
I think like for me, especially like TV, it's like I didn't realize how many departments there are into making a show. So I just think you just shoot something and you edit it and that's it, innit? But it's like there's so many different clogs. So it's like even with editing, you have to do stuff like hardening tests, you have to do like epilepsy tests, you have to go through compliance, who have to screen check it and make sure it's like regulated by Ofcom and all of that shit. So it's like I didn't know, just when you see something on your screen, how many things it's been through for you just to view it. So that was probably like the hardest thing for me to deal with. Was more like it's more like like the process that comes with making a video, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So
yeah, go on.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, do you know what, I really want to go into this, world of TV, for example, what's one piece of advice you would give them? Is it start to create your own content, or how can they stand out when they want to go for a job within this world?
Yeah, I would say try and create. The beauty of the internet is it's a great equalizer, isn't it? You don't really need, the gatekeepers have lost all their power. So you can kind of build leverage by just doing your own thing and being creative, like with the tools that you have. One thing I would say is like, don't really feel like you need many things. Like you don't need like a quality camera or like a mic setup, and that you can just literally start filming and get it cracking. And also I would also say like, kind of like understand you're in it. Understand coming in, you're in it for it's going to be a long ride, meaning like all the senior producers at BT, they all started running, right? So that means they were making teas and coffees and heating up people's lasagnas and stuff. So you have to be, you got to be, yeah. If you come into the game, unless your dad is, I don't know, Piers Morgan or something like that, you're going to have to, that's the route you're going to have to take. You're going to have to get apprentice and be on rubbish money, or do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you got to be in it for the love of it.
Yeah, you got to just go for it. Yeah, and just realize like your position right now is not you, and it's just your position, and you're just in a transitional period. Yeah, and just be in there and just there's no pressure. Just go in there and have fun, sort of thing. It's like, you know what I mean, saying soak it all up. You're in an industry where you're gonna be around. You can rub shoulders with like some really cool people. Like if you're a runner on a film shoot. It's just like you might be Leonardo DiCaprio, you might be chatting to him. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And you don't
Yeah.
know those gems. That
There's crazy opportunities. You meet some people. It's that experience for a while, isn't it?
for sure. And just know, like, you know, it doesn't mean, just know that it doesn't demean you in any way. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's
certainly.
a lot of people feel like, oh, why would I want to? Oh, I'm not making no man's coffee. Like, allow that. You know what I'm trying to say? But it's just like it doesn't demean you in any way. And so just kind of like come in with like a humble approach. That's what I'd say.
And would you still go into this industry knowing everything you know now, or do you wish you listened to your mum and went off to university?
Oh my god! Imagine so. Like me, my mum was watching an interview of mine the other day, and she was like, "Oh, Andrew, I'm so sorry that I told you to go to university." I was like, "Yeah, look at you now." But no, I would definitely say get into it, like especially like because especially like obviously comedy could never die in it. People love to laugh.
Yeah.
So if you want to do a comedy, that's just the beauty. But obviously comedy is another one where it's like it's not. If you really want to be a good comedian, it's not easy. You know what I'm trying to say? And it's a lot of evenings, it's a lot of sacrifice you're gonna have to take. But if that's what you want to get into, then like just go for it, man. You will never feel as free as you do on stage. That's one. So I would definitely get into comedy. If it's TV as well, it's like if you're getting into creating content, it's like the world is just begging for content. The world is like, you know what I'm trying to say? There's so many different realms of content that you can create. You can create TikToks, you can create reels, you can create YouTube videos, documentaries. It doesn't really matter. There's so many things that you can get into. And what I would say to a lot of people is like, a lot of people don't know what they want to do because they haven't tried all the things.
Yeah,
that's it. You got to try it.
So you have to try all of these things. It's like when I came into BT, I was like, I want to be a producer. I want to be a producer. I want to be a producer. I shadowed a producer one day and I was like, fuck this. I do not want to be a producer. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And that's how it should work. Like you should go out and try stuff. If you're okay, I want to create content. Okay, what kind of content do you want to create? Let me start a TikTok account. Let me start this. Let me start that. Let me do all of these things. And then really see what you want to do. And then I'm telling you, if you see what you want to do, there'll be a format of creativity that you can create, and you can progress.
That's it. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on, Andrew. It's been really interesting to hear about how you got into everything and how it's going for you.
That's all good, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, cheers. It's been awesome listening to your story and how you got to where you are. Where can people find you out on social media?
On Instagram, Andrew Mensah _, TikTok the same. I have a Twitter, but I hate Twitter, so I don't worry about it. You can see my stuff on BT Sport YouTube channel as well. What I wore, we've got like a load of good guys on there. We've had Steven Gerrard, Bale, as I said, Rio, Pep Guardiola, Gary Lineker. So there's a load of episodes to get in, and we're going to be relaunching it as well. Obviously, we had to shut it down because of the pandemic and stuff. But yeah, so that's where you can find me, BT, and on my social media, Andrew Mensah _.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mate.
No worries, guys, man. Thanks for having me.